The message came through every communications channel at once. It was loud, desperate, and impossible to ignore. Ambassador Daewon stood in the human embassy station, staring at the screens that filled the walls. Each screen showed the same thing: alien ships exploding, planets burning, and millions of voices crying for help. Daewon was 53 years old. His hair was turning gray at the temples. He had spent 20 years working with aliens, learning their languages, understanding their cultures. He thought he had seen everything. But this was different. This was terror on a scale he could barely understand. The voice on the transmission belonged to the Thalan people. They were insect-like creatures with 6 limbs and smooth purple shells. They had always been peaceful. They traded goods, shared knowledge, and never started wars. Now they were dying. Send us anything, the voice screamed through the speakers. Weapons, soldiers, shields, anything at all. We are getting slaughtered. They are eating our worlds. Please, somebody help us. Daewon felt his stomach turn. The enemy was called the Vorgath Swarm. They were not like other species. They did not negotiate. They did not want peace. They only consumed. World after world, system after system. They ate everything in their path. Their ships were alive, made of twisted flesh and bone. They could adapt to any weapon. Fire at them with lasers, and they grew armor that reflected light. Hit them with missiles, and they evolved thicker skin. The Thalan had already lost 3 of their 7 home planets. Billions were dead. The survivors were running out of time. Daewon walked quickly through the embassy corridors. His footsteps echoed on the metal floors. He needed to reach the council chamber. The Galactic Council was meeting right now, trying to decide what to do. Humanity had only been part of the council for 40 years. Most alien species still saw humans as children, young, primitive, and weak. Earth had no great warships, no ancient weapons, nothing that could match the technology of species that had been exploring space for thousands of years. But Daewon knew something they did not. The council chamber was chaos. Hundreds of species were arguing, their translators creating a wall of noise. Some wanted to send fleets to help the Thalan. Others said it was useless. The Vorgath had crushed every military force sent against them. A few cowards suggested abandoning the Thalan entirely and focusing on defense. We have tried everything, shouted one alien delegate. It looked like a floating jellyfish with glowing tentacles. Our best weapons mean nothing to them. They adapt too quickly. We cannot win this fight. Then what do you suggest? Another voice boomed. This one belonged to a massive creature covered in thick scales. We let them die? We let the Vorgath take another species? Better some than all. The jellyfish creature responded. If we send our fleets, we lose them. Then the Vorgath come for us next. We must protect ourselves. Daewon raised his hand. The chamber slowly quieted. All eyes, and sensors and other strange organs, turned toward him. He felt their judgment. The human, the newcomer, what could he possibly offer? Give us 72 hours, Daewon said. His voice was calm and steady. Humanity has something that might work. The chamber exploded with noise again. Laughter mostly. Some aliens clicked their mandibles in amusement. Others made sounds that translators turned into mockery. Humans? One delegate said. You have no fleet. No superweapons. What could you possibly send that we do not already have? Daewon did not smile. He did not argue. He simply repeated 72 hours. That is all we need. The council leader, an ancient being that looked like living crystal, studied Daewon for a long moment. Finally it spoke. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. Very well, Ambassador. You have 3 days. But if you fail, do not expect mercy from this council. The Thalan do not have time for games. Daewon bowed and left the chamber. Behind him, he could hear the aliens still laughing. They thought humans were fools. They thought Earth had nothing to offer. They were very, very wrong. Back in his private office, Daewon activated a secure communication line. The screen flickered, then showed a woman's face. She was younger than him, maybe 35, with sharp eyes and short black hair tied back tightly. This was Commander He-Jin. They gave us the time, Daewon said. He-Jin nodded. Good. We are already preparing the Prometheus. But Daewon, you know what this means. Once we do this, there is no going back. The entire galaxy will know what we are capable of. I know, Daewon replied. But the Thalan are dying, and they asked for anything. We are going to give them exactly that. He-Jin allowed herself a small smile. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone about to do something impossible. Then I will see you on the other side, Ambassador. The screen went dark. Daewon sat alone in his office for a moment. Outside the window he could see the stars, billions of them, scattered across the black void. Somewhere out there the Thalan were fighting for survival, and somewhere much closer, humanity was about to change the rules of war forever. He thought about the Vorgoth. They were monsters, yes, but they followed rules. They used organic technology. They adapted to weapons. They fought like every other species in the galaxy. Humanity did not play by those rules. Humans had spent their entire history fighting impossible odds. They had survived ice ages, plagues, predators, and each other. They had climbed out of caves and reached for the stars. And they had learned one very important lesson along the way. When normal weapons failed, you did not send better weapons. You sent things that should not be weapons at all. You sent earthquakes, floods, viruses, you sent nature itself. And if that was not enough, you sent something even bigger. Daewon stood and straightened his uniform. He had work to do, messages to send, preparations to finalize. In 72 hours, the galaxy would learn what humanity meant when they said they would send anything. They were going to send a sun. The research facility hung in the darkness of space, orbiting one of Jupiter's frozen moons. From the outside, it looked like any other station. Gray metal walls, blinking lights, solar panels spreading out like wings. But inside, it held secrets that would make the galaxy tremble. Commander Heejin stepped off the transport shuttle and into the main corridor. The air was cold and smelled like recycled oxygen and metal. Her boots made soft sounds on the floor as she walked. Behind her came Dr. Taman, carrying a datapad and muttering to himself. Taman was brilliant but strange. His hair stuck up in all directions because he never remembered to comb it. He wore thick glasses even though surgery could fix his eyes. He said he liked them. They helped him think. Right now he was reading numbers and making small humming sounds. "Stop humming," Hyejin said without looking back. "Sorry," Taman said. He did not stop humming. They reached a large door marked with warnings. Red symbols covered every surface. Danger. Authorized personnel only. Extreme hazard. Heejin placed her hand on the scanner. The door opened with a hiss. Beyond it was a room that took her breath away. The chamber was massive, maybe 200 meters across. In the center floated a sphere made of some kind of clear material. Inside the sphere was light. Not normal light. This was pure white burning light that hurt to look at directly. It pulsed like a heartbeat. The sphere itself was covered in machinery, coils, sensors, cooling systems. All of it working together to hold that terrible light in place. Beautiful, is it not? Taman said softly. Terrifying, Heejin corrected. How hot is it? 15 million degrees at the core. The same temperature as the center of our sun. If the containment fails, this entire moon vaporizes in 3 seconds. Heejin felt sweat on her palms. She was a soldier. She had flown through asteroid fields and survived battles. But this was different. This was playing with forces that should never be touched. A voice came from behind them. "Commander Hyejin, Doctor, welcome to Project Helios." They turned. A tall man in a military uniform approached. This was Admiral Kyung-soo. He was older, maybe 60, with a face like carved stone. His eyes were hard but not unkind. He had authorized this project 30 years ago. Back then, everyone thought he was insane. Maybe he was. "Admiral," Hyejin saluted. "We received your message. Is it ready?" "Yes, come, I will show you everything." They walked around the chamber. Kyung-soo explained as they went. His voice was steady, like he was describing something ordinary. 30 years ago, I asked a simple question. What is the one thing no military force can defend against? The answer was obvious: nature. You cannot shoot a hurricane. You cannot negotiate with an earthquake. You cannot adapt to a volcano. He stopped and looked at the glowing sphere. So we decided to weaponize nature, not the small kind. The big kind. We learned how to move stars. Heejin stared at him. She knew the theory. She had read the files. But hearing it said out loud still felt like madness. Taman adjusted his glasses. The technical term is stellar core extraction. We use quantum field generators to create a bubble of compressed space around a small portion of a star. Then we transport that bubble. The star fragment stays in fusion the entire time. Like carrying a cup of the sun, Heejin said. Exactly. A very, very hot cup, Kyung-soo continued walking. They passed workstations where scientists monitored screens filled with data. Everyone looked exhausted. Some had been here for days without sleep. The Prometheus has been retrofitted with a quantum fold drive. You can reach the Kepler 442 system in 18 hours. Extract the stellar fragment. Then jump to the Thalan front line. Total mission time, 48 hours. And then, Hyojin asked, then you release it. Right in the middle of the Vorgath fleet. The plan was simple. Insane, but simple. Take a piece of a star. Carry it across hundreds of light years. Drop it on the enemy. Let physics do the rest. They reached another door. This one opened into a hangar bay. Inside was the Prometheus. It was a beautiful ship, sleek and white with engines that glowed blue. But now it had been changed. A massive sphere was attached to its belly. A larger version of the containment system they had just seen. A young woman was working on the sphere's exterior. She wore a welding mask and did not notice them at first. When she finally looked up, she pulled off the mask and grinned. "Admiral? Is it time?" "Yes, Jiwoo. It is time." Engineer Jiwoo was 28 years old and the best technical mind in the entire facility. She had designed the containment systems. Every coil, every sensor, every safety mechanism came from her brain. She treated the Prometheus like it was her child. "She is ready," Jiwoo said proudly. "Containment fields are stable. Quantum fold drive tested and perfect. All systems green. You could carry 100 stars in this baby if you wanted." "Let us start with one," Hyojin said dryly. The crew began arriving over the next few hours. 200 people, physicists, engineers, soldiers. All of them had volunteered. All of them knew the risks. If something went wrong, there would be no rescue. No survivors. Just a brief flash of light and then nothing. Hyojin gathered them in the hangar. They stood in formation, their faces serious. She looked at each of them, memorizing their faces. "You all know the mission," she began. "We are going to harvest a star, transport it across space, and deliver it to the Vorgath. This has never been done before. It is dangerous. It is possibly stupid. But it is also necessary." She paused. "The Thalan asked for anything. They are dying out there while we stand here in safety. So we are going to give them exactly what they asked for. We are going to give them a weapon that cannot be stopped, cannot be adapted to, cannot be reasoned with." She looked up at the Prometheus. "We are going to give them the wrath of a star." The crew did not cheer. They simply nodded. They understood. This was not about glory. This was about doing something impossible because it needed to be done. Admiral Kyung-soo stepped forward. He saluted Hyojin. "Bring them hope, Commander. Show the galaxy what humanity can do." Hyojin returned the salute. Then she turned to her crew. "Board the ship. We launch in 1 hour." The crew moved quickly and efficiently. They climbed into the Prometheus like they had practiced 1,000 times. Because they had. Every detail had been planned. Every emergency prepared for. Nothing was left to chance. Hyojin was the last to board. She stopped at the airlock and looked back at the hangar. Admiral Kyung-soo stood there watching. For a moment, the hard expression on his face softened. He looked old. Tired. Like a man who had carried a terrible weight for too long. She understood. He had spent 30 years building this weapon. Now he had to watch it leave. Not knowing if it would work. Not knowing if his life's work would save people or kill them all. She gave him a small nod. Then she stepped inside. The airlock sealed behind her with a hiss. On the bridge, Taemin was already at his station checking readings. Jiwoo was in engineering, making sure every system was perfect. The rest of the crew took their positions. Hyojin sat in the captain's chair. She took a deep breath. Then she said the words that would change everything. "Disconnect from the station. Power up the engines. Set course for Kepler 442. The Prometheus shuddered as it pulled away from the facility. The engines glowed brighter. Space around the ship began to shimmer and bend as the quantum fold drive activated. And then, in a flash of impossible light, they were gone. Behind them, Admiral Kyung-soo stood alone in the empty hangar. He whispered something too quiet for anyone to hear. "Good luck." The jump through quantum fold space felt like falling and flying at the same time. Space twisted around the Prometheus, colors bleeding into each other in ways that hurt to look at. Then, after what felt like forever and no time at all, they arrived. The Kepler 442 system spread out before them. In the center burned a small yellow star. It was beautiful in a deadly way. Hydrogen fusing into helium, releasing energy that had traveled for billions of years. Now humans were about to steal a piece of it. "We are in position," announced the navigation officer. His name was Dong Hyun, and his hands shook slightly on the controls. Everyone was nervous. They were about to do something that should be impossible. Commander Hyejin studied the main screen. The star looked peaceful from this distance. Just another point of light. Dr. Taemin, begin preparations. Taemin nodded and spoke into his headset. Engineering released the harvester probes. Deep in the ship's cargo bay, massive doors opened. 6 probes launched into space. They were huge, each one the size of a building. Their hulls gleamed silver in the starlight. As they moved toward the sun, they spread out into a perfect hexagon formation. Jiwoo watched from engineering, her fingers dancing across multiple screens. Every system had to work perfectly. One mistake and the star would destroy the probes. Or worse, it would destroy them. Probes are approaching the stellar corona, she reported. Temperature rising. 2,000 degrees. 5,000. 10,000. The probes glowed red, then white. Their shields were working, but barely. They pushed deeper into the star's atmosphere. The plasma around them boiled and twisted. 50,000 degrees, Jiwoo said. Her voice was steady, but her knuckles were white from gripping her console. Shields holding. Activating quantum field generators. Each probe began to emit a strange blue light. The light formed lines between the probes, connecting them into a glowing net. The net sank deeper into the star, reaching for its heart. Taemin explained to the bridge crew, even though they had heard it before. Talking helped him stay calm. The quantum field creates a bubble in space-time. Inside the bubble, we compress space. A huge volume becomes small, very small. We are basically folding the star in on itself. That sounds insane, muttered one of the officers. Yes, Taemin agreed cheerfully. Very insane. But it works. Temperature at 1 million degrees, Jiwoo reported. 5 million. 10 million. 15 million. We are at the core. The bridge was silent except for the hum of machinery. Everyone watched the screens. They showed readings that should not be possible. Temperatures that would vaporize planets. Pressures that would crush mountains into dust. And there, in the middle of it all, 6 tiny probes holding back the fury of a star. Begin extraction, Hyejin ordered. The quantum field activated fully. Space around the probes shimmered and bent. The star's core began to flow upward, pulled by forces that did not obey normal physics. It looked like someone was scooping light out of a pool. The stellar fragment rose slowly. It was the size of Earth's moon, but contained the mass of Jupiter. Inside it, hydrogen atoms slammed together at impossible speeds, creating helium and releasing energy. It was a sun in miniature, a tiny, deadly piece of the universe's power. Extraction at 10%, Jiwoo said. 20%, 30%. Alarms began to sound. What is happening? Hyejin demanded. The star is fighting back. Jiwoo raised her voice. It is trying to pull the fragment back down. Gravitational stress on the probes increasing. 60%, 70%. We are reaching critical levels. Taemin leaned forward. He typed rapidly on his console. Redirect power from life support to the quantum generators. We need more field strength. That will give us 10 minutes of air, Dong Hyun warned. Then we finish in 9 minutes, Hyejin said coldly. Do it, the lights dimmed. The air circulation stopped. The bridge became very quiet. All power flowed to the probes. The quantum field grew stronger, brighter, more impossible. Extraction at 50%, Jiwoo said. 60, 70, come on, come on. The stellar fragment continued to rise. It fought them every centimeter. It wanted to fall back, to rejoin its parent star. But the quantum field held firm. 90%, Jiwoo breathed. 95. Extraction complete. The probes pulled the stellar fragment free. For a moment, it hung in space above the star. It burned white-hot, brighter than anything around it. Then the probes began to move, slowly guiding it toward the Prometheus. The ship's cargo bay doors opened. The containment sphere inside was already active, its fields ready. Guide it in carefully, Hyejin ordered. Very carefully. The probes moved in perfect synchronization. They brought the stellar fragment to the containment sphere. Slowly, gently, they transferred it. The quantum field shifted from the probes to the sphere. The fragment settled into place, still burning, still fusing, still deadly. Containment successful, Jiwoo announced. She slumped in her chair, exhausted. The star is ours. The bridge crew erupted in cheers. They had done it. They had actually done it. They had stolen a piece of a star. Restore life support, Hyejin ordered. Recall the probes. Prepare for quantum full jump. The probes returned and docked. The lights came back on. Air began to flow again. The ship's systems returned to normal, but nothing felt normal. How could it? They were carrying a sun inside their ship, a burning, raging piece of stellar fury held in place by machines and mathematics. Taemin came to stand beside Hee-jin. He adjusted his glasses and looked at the readings. Temperature stable at 15 million degrees. Quantum containment at 98% efficiency. Fusion reaction steady. It is perfect. How long until we reach the Thalan system? Hee-jin asked. 22 hours, Dong-hyun replied, then everyone get some rest. We will need our strength for what comes next, but nobody slept. How could they? They were about to enter a war zone. They were about to face an enemy that had destroyed entire civilizations. And they were doing it with a weapon that had never been tested in combat. Hee-jin stood alone on the bridge long after the others had left. She stared at the screen showing the containment sphere. It glowed with light that should never exist inside a spaceship. Light that could vaporize them all in an instant if something went wrong. She thought about the Thalan, about their desperate message, about millions of people dying while politicians argued. She thought about Ambassador Daewon, who had trusted humanity to do the impossible. She thought about what they were about to do. The Vorgath swarm had adapted to every weapon. They had evolved defenses against lasers, missiles, plasma, everything, but they had never faced a star. You cannot adapt to a sun. You cannot evolve armor thick enough to withstand 15 million degrees. You cannot grow shields that stop gravity itself. The Vorgath were about to learn a hard lesson. When you ask humans for help, you need to be very specific. Because when you say send us anything, humans will take you literally and they will send you the thing that gods use to make worlds. Hee-jin allowed herself a cold smile. 22 hours, she whispered to the empty bridge. 22 hours until the Vorgath learn what true fear is. The Prometheus began to charge its quantum fold drive. Space around the ship started to shimmer. In moments, they would jump. Destination, the Thalan front lines. Cargo, one sun. Mission, deliver fire from the heavens. The Prometheus dropped out of quantum fold space at the edge of the Thalan system. What they saw made everyone on the bridge go silent. The system was dying. 3 planets hung in space like broken toys. Their surfaces were stripped bare, all life consumed. No trees, no oceans, no cities, just gray rock and ash. Debris filled the space between planets, millions of pieces of destroyed ships and stations. Bodies floated among the wreckage. Some were Thalan, some were other species that had come to help, and everywhere, covering everything like a disease, were the Vorgath. Their bioships looked like nightmares made real, twisted organic shapes, all teeth and claws and pulsing flesh. Some were small, the size of fighters. Others were massive, bigger than cities. They moved in swarms, millions of them, blocking out the stars. At the center of it all floated something even worse. The Hive Nexus. It was the size of a small moon, a bloated mass of living tissue. Tentacles the size of mountains reached out from it, each one ending in what looked like mouths. It pulsed with a sick green light. This was the brain of the Vorgath swarm, the thing that coordinated billions of creatures across thousands of light years. This is horrible, whispered Dong-hyun. His face was pale. Commander Hee-jin forced herself to look away from the carnage. Where are the Thalan forces? Detecting what remains of their fleet near Ether Prime, the 4th planet, reported the sensor officer. Her name was Bora and she looked like she might be sick. Approximately 200 ships remaining. They are completely surrounded. 200 ships. The Thalan had started this war with 20,000. Send a transmission to the Thalan fleet, Hee-jin ordered. Tell them we are here. Tell them to clear a path to the Hive Nexus. The communications officer worked quickly. A moment later, a face appeared on the screen. It was a Thalan, one of their insect-like warriors. His purple shell was cracked and burned. One of his 6 limbs hung useless at his side. His large compound eyes showed exhaustion and despair. This is High Commander Naloth of the Thalan Defense Force, the alien said. His voice was translated into human language, but the weariness in it needed no translation. Who are you? Why have you come to watch us die? This is Commander Hee-jin of the human vessel Prometheus. We are here to help. We need you to clear a corridor through the Vorgath fleet. We are making a delivery. Naloth stared at her. One ship? You brought one ship? Human, I appreciate the gesture, but one ship cannot help us. We have fought for months with thousands and we are losing. You should leave while you still can. We did not come here to leave, Hee-jin said firmly. And we did not bring just any ship. High Commander, you sent a message asking for anything. We took that seriously. Now please, clear a path. What we are about to do will save your people or kill us all. Something in her voice must have convinced him. Or maybe he was just too tired to argue. Very well, human. We will clear what path we can. But I do not know what you think one ship can accomplish. You will see soon enough, Hyejin promised. The Thalan fleet began to move. Their ships were battered and barely functional, but they still fought with courage. They concentrated their fire on one section of the Vorgath swarm, creating a narrow corridor through the sea of bioships. The Vorgath immediately swarmed to fill the gap. Thousands of bioships turned toward the Prometheus. They had sensed new prey. All power to shields, Hyejin commanded, full speed toward the Hive Nexus. Do not stop for anything. The Prometheus accelerated. Behind them, the Thalan ships continued to fight, keeping the corridor open. But it would not last long. Already, Vorgath bioships were closing in from all sides. First impacts in 10 seconds, Bo-Ra warned. They are firing bioplasma weapons. Green energy bolts slammed into the Prometheus. The shields flared bright blue, absorbing the impacts. But there were so many. Hundreds of bioships firing at once. The shield readings began to drop. Shields at 80%, Bo-Ra said. 70%. They are adapting their weapons. The bioplasma is getting hotter. Of course they were adapting. That was what the Vorgath did. They learned. They evolved. Give them an hour and they would develop weapons that could cut through the shields like paper. But Hyejin did not plan to give them an hour. Time to target? She asked. 3 minutes at current speed, Donghyun replied. His hands were steady on the controls despite the ship shaking around them. Hyejin activated the ship-wide communication system. All crew, this is the commander. Abandon ship. Repeat, all crew abandon ship. Get to the escape pods now. You have 2 minutes. The crew began moving immediately. They had practiced this. Every person knew exactly which escape pod to use. They moved quickly but calmly, like professionals. On the bridge, only Hyejin, Taemin, and Donghyun remained. You two should go as well, Hyejin said. No, Taemin replied simply. Someone needs to monitor the containment field until the last moment. That someone is me. And someone needs to fly this ship, Donghyun added. I'm not leaving either, Hyejin wanted to argue. She wanted to order them to go. But she understood. This was their choice, their mission, and time was running out. Then we see this through together, she said quietly. Taemin prepared to release the payload. Taemin began typing commands. In the cargo bay, the containment sphere started its shutdown sequence. The quantum fields that held the stellar fragment stable began to weaken, slowly and carefully. Too fast and the star would explode and take them with it. Too slow and the Vorgath would destroy the ship before they could complete the mission. Shields at 40%, Bo-Ra reported from her escape pod. She was still feeding them sensor data, 30%. Commander, you need to release it now. The Hive Nexus filled the view screen. They were so close now. Close enough to see the details of its horrible surface. Close enough to see smaller Vorgath crawling across it like parasites. Shields at 20%, Bo-Ra said. Her voice was tight with fear. 15% containment field at minimal levels, Taemin announced. Ready to release on your command. Hyejin looked at the Hive Nexus. She thought about all the people it had killed. All the worlds it had destroyed. All the suffering it had caused. She smiled. The Thalan asked for anything, she said. So we brought them a son. Release the payload. Taemin pressed the final button. The containment sphere opened. The quantum fields disappeared, and a star was born into the void. For a moment, nothing happened. The stellar fragment hung in space, a tiny ball of light. Then it began to expand. The laws of physics reasserted themselves. The compressed matter that had been held in an impossibly small space suddenly had room to breathe. It grew and grew and grew 1 kilometer wide, 10 kilometers, 100, 1,000. The star expanded to its natural size in seconds, 1 million kilometers in diameter. A ball of fusion and fury and light so bright it could be seen across the galaxy. The Vorgath bioships closest to the Prometheus simply ceased to exist. They were not destroyed. They were not burned. They were erased, turned to plasma in an instant, then gas, then individual atoms scattered across space. The Hive Nexus tried to move. Too slow. The star's gravity grabbed it like a giant hand. It was pulled in, screaming. Yes, screaming. The Vorgath were telepathic. Every mind in the swarm felt the hive nexus die. They felt it burn. They felt it break apart. They felt 15 million degrees of heat consume the thing that had guided them for thousands of years. And then they felt nothing at all. The star's gravity well-pulled in everything. Within 50 million kilometers, bioships by the thousands fell into its burning embrace. The stellar wind, a hurricane of superheated plasma, scoured the space around it clean. In less than a minute, 5 million Vorgath bioships were gone. The remaining Vorgath fled. Without their hive nexus, they were lost, confused, easy prey for the Thalan fleet. And in the center of it all, a new sun burned. It had been taken from one system and given to another. Humanity's gift to the Thalan people, a gift wrapped in fire and death. Escape pods drifted 200 million kilometers from the new star. Inside one of them, Commander Heejin, Dr. Taemin, and Dong Hyun sat in silence. They were alive. Somehow impossibly they were alive. The pod's small window showed them the aftermath of what they had done. The new sun burned bright and steady, already settling into a stable orbit around Ether Prime. The Thalan homeworld now had two suns. One old, one new, one natural. One delivered by humans who refused to accept the word impossible. "We actually did it," Dong Hyun whispered. His hands were still shaking from the adrenaline. "We moved a star." Taemin adjusted his glasses and smiled. "Of course we did. The math said it would work." "Math is never wrong." "Well, almost never." Hyejin said nothing. She was watching the star. Their star, humanity's impossible gift to a dying species. She felt tired. More tired than she had ever felt in her life. But also proud. A transmission came through. It was High Commander Naloth. His face appeared on the pod's small screen. He was crying. Thalan did not cry like humans, but the emotion was clear. "You gave us a son," he said. His voice was full of wonder and disbelief. "The Vorgath are fleeing. The ones that survived are scattered and confused. We are hunting them down now. It will take time, but we will eliminate every last one." He paused, struggling with his emotions. "How do we even begin to thank you? You humans, you are not like the other species. You are something different. Something terrifying and wonderful. You asked what you could send us. We expected weapons, ships, soldiers. You sent us a star. You asked for anything." Heejin replied simply. "We delivered." Naloth laughed. It sounded like clicking and humming, but the joy in it was unmistakable. "Yes, yes, you did. We will never forget this. None of us will. Humanity will always have friends among the Thalan." The transmission ended. Heejin closed her eyes and let herself rest. They would be picked up soon. Rescue ships were already on their way. But for now, she just wanted to sit in the quiet and process what they had accomplished. 6 months passed. The Galactic Council chambers on Velronis Prime were packed. Every species had sent representatives. The news of what humanity had done had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Some species were grateful. Some were terrified. All of them wanted answers. Ambassador Daewon stood at the center of the chamber. He looked the same as always, calm and composed. But inside he was carefully choosing his words. What he said here today would define how the galaxy saw humanity for generations to come. The council leader, the ancient crystal being, spoke first. Its voice was like wind chimes, but there was steel beneath the beauty. "Ambassador Daewon, your species has demonstrated capabilities that we did not know existed. You moved a star across hundreds of light years. You weaponized stellar mechanics. Many here are asking, what else can humanity do? And more importantly, should we fear you?" Murmurs ran through the chamber. Some angry, some worried. Some curious. Daewon waited for silence. Then he spoke. "Fear is a choice. But let me be clear about who we are and what we can do. Humanity spent 30 years developing Project Helios. Not because we needed it. Not because we had enemies. We did it because we asked ourselves a question. What is the one threat that conventional warfare cannot stop?" He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, sensors, and other organs of every delegate. The answer was nature. You cannot shoot a hurricane. You cannot negotiate with gravity. You cannot adapt to the fury of a star. So we learned to control those forces, not to conquer, not to dominate, but to survive. One of the delegates, a floating jellyfish-like creature, spoke up. "But you could use this power to destroy any of us. You could drop a star on any planet you wished. How can we trust you?" Daewon nodded. You are right, we could. But we did not. The Thalan were dying. They asked for help, we gave it. We could have demanded payment, territory, resources. We asked for nothing except the chance to do what was right. He paused. Humans have a saying, with great power comes great responsibility. We understand the weight of what we have created. We will not share the technology. We will not use it carelessly, but we will use it to defend our allies when they face extinction. Another delegate spoke. This one looked like a massive creature covered in thick scales. So humanity positions itself as the protector of the weak, as the galaxy's guardian? No, Daewon said firmly. We position ourselves as equals who happen to think differently. Most species in this chamber have existed for thousands of years. You have advanced technology, ancient wisdom, but you also have limits. You accept certain rules about what can and cannot be done. Humanity does not accept those limits. We survived on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Ice ages, diseases, predators, we learned to adapt, to innovate, to do whatever it took to survive. That is our nature. The chamber was silent now. Every being present was listening carefully. You want to know what else we can do? Daewon continued. We can do things you have not imagined yet. We are already working on projects that will change the galaxy again. But we will use those capabilities wisely, because unlike the Vorgath, we understand restraint. Unlike conquerors, we understand mercy. The council leader studied him for a long moment. Finally it spoke. The council has discussed this matter extensively. We have decided to offer humanity a permanent seat on the Security High Command. This position has only been held by 3 species in galactic history. It will give you authority over military decisions and the power to deploy forces across council space. Gasps and clicks and other sounds of surprise filled the chamber. This was unprecedented. Humanity had been in the council for only 40 years. Other species had waited thousands of years for such an honor. We accept, Daewon said, and we promise to use this authority to protect, not to dominate. To save, not to conquer. The vote was taken. It was not unanimous. Some species voted against giving humans so much power, but the majority agreed. The Thalan voted yes. So did dozens of other species who had seen what the Vorgath could do and knew that conventional weapons were not enough. After the session, Daewon returned to his office. He was exhausted. Commander Heejin was waiting for him. She had been decorated with the Galactic Medal of Valor, the highest honor the Council could give. She wore it on her uniform, but she did not look happy. They are scared of us now, she said. Yes, Daewon agreed, but they are also grateful. Fear and gratitude can coexist. The important thing is that we prove ourselves worthy of the trust they are giving us. What about the projects you mentioned? The things we have not imagined yet? Were you bluffing? Daewon smiled slightly. Dr. Taemin and Engineer Jiwoo are already working on improvements to the quantum fold drive. They think they can transport entire solar systems now, move planets to better orbits, terraform dead worlds by giving them new suns. Heejin stared at him. You are serious completely. Humanity does not stop. We never have. We climbed out of caves and reached the stars. Now we are learning to move those stars. Who knows what we will do next? Back on Earth, the news was met with celebration. Humanity had proven itself. They were no longer the newcomers, the primitives, the species that others looked down on. They were the ones who had done the impossible. Admiral Kyung-soo gave a press conference. Reporters from 100 worlds attended. What you accomplished was incredible, one reporter said. But was it not also dangerous? What if the containment had failed? What if the star had exploded? Kyung-soo nodded. Yes, it was dangerous. Yes, we could have failed. But the Thalan were dying. Sometimes you have to take risks to do what is right. That is what humanity has always done. Another reporter asked, what message does this send to potential enemies of humanity? Kyung-soo smiled grimly. The message is simple. Do not ask humans for help unless you are ready for us to take you seriously. Because when someone says send us anything, we will send them exactly what they need. Even if that thing happens to be a star. Across the galaxy, the story spread. It was told in 1,000 languages by 1,000 species. Some versions were accurate. Some were exaggerated. But all of them agreed on the basic facts. The Thalan had begged for help. They had asked for anything, and humanity had sent them a son. A new phrase entered common use across the galaxy. It was said in bars, in council meetings, in military briefings. It was sometimes a joke. sometimes a warning, sometimes a compliment. Be careful what you ask for from humans. They just might give it to you. And in classified intelligence networks, another message circulated. This one was not a joke. It was a warning from species that had been planning to invade human space or challenge Earth's growing influence. The message was simple. Do not engage humanity. They sent a son. What else are they capable of? Military buildup ceased. Invasion plans were shelved. Treaties were signed. Because every species in the galaxy now understood one fundamental truth. Humanity did not play by the same rules. They did not accept limits. They did not respect boundaries. When you pushed them, they did not push back. They did not fight conventionally. They sent stars. And if they could send stars, what else could they send? Black holes? Supernovas? The answer was terrifying because nobody knew. Nobody wanted to find out. On Ether Prime, the Thalan people looked up at their two suns, the old one that had always been there, and the new one, burning bright and steady, a gift from the strange species that called themselves human.